Hello and welcome to GSF Podcast, sponsored by the Gary Sinise Foundation's Education and Outreach Initiative, aiming to educate the public on the importance of serving America's veterans, first responders, and their families.
Welcome to the Gary Sinise Foundation Podcast. I'm your host, Cristin and we have award-winning documentarian Jake Rademacher with us today. From 2005 to 2007, Jake risked everything, including his life, to tell the story of his brothers who were serving in Iraq as part of the global war on terror. The resulting film, Brothers at War, was a powerful exploration of the struggles they experienced while serving in the Middle East and the effects of their service on loved ones at home. Now, Jake brings us the follow-up to that film, Brothers After War, another deeply personal film with a focus on the after effects of military service on those who serve, as well as the families who sacrifice alongside them. Welcome, Jake.
Hi, glad to be here.
So, let's dive right in. Your whole family has a long history of military service. So let's start there. Where does that come from?
I mean, I've got some relatives that served in like the Revolutionary War.
Holy moly.
I think we're even related to Robert the Bruce through the family tree. So I guess it's, way back a long time ago. But really the one that's most in my mind is my grandfather, Joseph Rademacher, who filled his pockets full of quarters, dropped out of Millikan University and signed up for the Army Air Corps. He got in and did 17 missions over Italy. On the 17th successful mission, he got shot down, and then he spent the last 6 months fighting behind enemy lines with Italian partisans. He chose not to escape to Switzerland and get back in an airplane, but instead to stay right there with them, fighting alongside them. And the British Special Operations dropped an operator, so the three of them ran like 200 square miles of the Italian resistance. And in our new film, we actually revisit. Joe and I actually went to the site that he jumped out of an airplane and landed in Italy and then fought alongside the Italians for 6 months.
What an experience.
It was an experience. And I grew up, and my dad had wanted to serve in Vietnam, but he came out of medical school in 1972 and they didn't want him. It was too late. So he never really had a chance to serve. But he always had a profound respect for it. And I grew up as a young boy. I really, really wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Doesn't everybody?
I mean, yeah. And I've
wanted to do the same thing.
I got a chance to be in a fighter plane last year and do almost 8 Gs. I'm serious. I did not throw up and I did not pass out, which was great.
Did you practice?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
They would have knocked me out. That would have killed me. I mean, it was like an hour and a half. It was a dogfight. I was like in a mission. It wasn't like, hey, Jake, feel this out. It was like, no, they're dogfighting. They were training a captain and I was with the colonel.
Get out.
And the commander was the bogey. So it was like 2 guys trying to kill the other guy. And you're right there with them. And
that's incredible.
Halfway through this, I'm like, I haven't passed out. I'm doing this.
Childhood dream.
I'm doing this. And then I realized I'm surviving. The guy in front of me is dogfighting.
Oh, man.
So mad respect for those guys. So I knew I could never do that because my eyesight was so bad. So I thought, what would be really kind of cool as a backup would be like maybe an infantry platoon leader or a company commander. So I got interested in going to West Point. And my father actually, super proud that he is, took me out there at 14 years of age to walk the grounds at West Point. And I remember visiting one of his colleagues' sons who was like a senior. And they were like, do you want to go rappelling? And I was like, I'm in my like Sunday clothes and loafers, man. What do you mean? Like, yeah, we're going to go rappelling down the side of the mountain here. I'm like, you want to come? And I'm like, where are we? Where is this magical place where they just go rappelling in the middle of the day? And how do I get here? And so, you know, I went to a meeting there, how to get in and stuff like that. And because I finished my Eagle Scout, I went to Boys State. I was elected Secretary of State. I did all the things. I was captain of the soccer team. I had a 4.0 in high school. On and on and on. I applied, early admission. I would have been accepted, but my eyes are so bad they didn't let me in.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually very crushing. So I went to Notre Dame as a backup, and I really was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do because my heart was so set on doing that.
You had like a focus, and
it was beyond focus. It was like obsession, and that was hard. But that's part of life. And so I went to Notre Dame. I was a history major. Then I was going to do finance. Then I did an internship after my sophomore year. I went to Chicago, and as an intern, I guess I was a bit plucky is the word's coming to me. I don't even know what we call it. But like I was like, my uncle was like, you need computer experience and sales experience. And the woman running the office wouldn't take me on a sales meeting. But one guy's like, you set up a meeting, I'll take you. I cold called for a couple weeks. I got Ticketmaster, the Marvel Group, and Tootsie Roll to get us meetings, to do training for the computers for everyone on their team. Now realize this is 1995. We walk into Tootsie Roll, these ladies are on typewriters.
Yeah.
And the woman who brought us in was like, we need help. I'm like, yeah, you do. So setting up internships as a 20-year-old, like obviously I met the CEO, the president, everyone was pumped. They were sending me money to go buy beers at the Cubs game. Like,
living the high life.
Oh my God. It was like, you have a job here when you come back.
Prime, yeah.
So you should be like super pumped, right? You should be sitting on your couch in Lincoln Park going, I just did something almost impossible.
Innovative, yeah.
And I feel completely empty inside.
Oh.
And I was like, I've got to have my life be something more than this. It has to have purpose. I can't just go be an investment banker or something like that. So I had my midlife crisis at 20.
Oh man, early. Let's just say your quarter life crisis.
Okay, quarter life crisis. It was a big one. Quarter life crisis. I tried acting for the first time. I think I was probably awful, but I fell in love right away. And as a writer, I wrote some stuff in a playwriting class, and I got picked. It did well, and I got picked up to be one of 7 students at Trinity College Dublin, which is older than America. It's like the Oxford of Ireland. And Sebastian Barry, whose play was like winning the Olivier Award that year, picked me to be one of his 7 students.
Oh man.
And then proceeded to scold me halfway through it that I should be writing every day, and I wasn't. So I felt kind of bad about that. I fell in love, and so I spent the last year and a half doing plays, 8 plays. I moved to Chicago. I got going in professional theater. I was telling Gary about this the other day. I actually met him on the street when he was doing Streetcar Named Desire.
That's when you met Gary?
I met him. Yeah.
Get out of
Forrest
here.
Gump, met him. I was studying with the Moscow Art Theater.
Get
He was
out
like
of
our
here.
hero. I mean, everybody knows Gary and everything he does for the troops, but like
Theater Gary is like
a monster.
Oh my
a monster,
goodness.
a Chicago legend.
Yeah.
I started my career there. So like I met him, and it was like, he's like nominated for an Academy Award. He's doing a play at Steppenwolf. I'm just some like 23-year-old actor, the wannabe kind of guy. And I came up to him with another guy I was studying with, and we were like, Gary Sinise, what's up? And he was like super cool.
Oh yeah.
I was like, Gary, you were really nice, man. I was like, man, he is so cool.
Always down to earth. See, Jeeks, yes.
It was like,
exactly.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, it was cool. He was just like, hey, and I was like, you're really good in that play. He goes, yeah, I did my best. I was like, you went on to Broadway, won a Tony and all that. So to fast forward to a moment that I want to share with you, my brothers came home from Fallujah. They told me the truth is not coming home from Iraq.
Oh no.
Yeah. And it pissed me off as a brother.
Yeah.
So I decided to take all the money I ever made as an actor. I'd moved to LA at this point and start a production company. I got permission from the DOD. And then I went to Iraq and I started production on Brothers at War. But there was a moment when you talk about commitment. There's a moment before that, and it makes me sad just thinking about it. Like Isaac is halfway through his deployment in Mosul, Iraq. It's his 3rd deployment. he feels like America's missing the mark. They're not telling the story from the soldier's point of view, right? It's all political. No one wants to actually focus on the actual ground.
Right.
Here's his brother trying to do it, but he's not going to get there in Isaac's mind. I interview him and I say, I'll see you in Iraq. And he's down the hallway and he's just looking down. He goes, yeah, okay. And I was like, I swore to myself, I'm like, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make it. And if I don't, no one would have been able to do it. And so I was just like so committed and I just went for it. And by the grace of God, I got it. I mean, I got there a week before he left.
Oh man.
And you know, I don't even know how I did it. I mean, I never directed anything before. I wasn't a filmmaker. I became a filmmaker in freaking Iraq. Like, that's insane. And I don't even know how I did it. I just was all in. And there was a moment in this new film too where I couldn't get to Tunisia. It was closed. The country's closed. And Isaac literally said to the sergeant major, he will figure out a way. At the last minute, he will make it. I just know Jake. And, and I did it again. But like, I just...
You'd proved it to him. I mean, you were a man on a mission.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was so crazy. But it was, you know, what's so amazing is like, once I got there, that purity of spirit, that passion for this coming as a brother to tell a brother's story, like it resonated with the other guys. And, you know, everyone always asked me, like, how'd you get out with snipers? How'd you go out with Marine advisors? How'd you get that access? How'd you film in a skiff?
Yeah.
And I was like, they asked me to.
Oh.
I was there. They knew I was there. And soldiers and Marines are smarter than people think. You know, you'll be walking with them on a mission and they'll go like, so who you with, CNN?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, Fox, no. Who you with? I said, I'm a director of my own film. They go, really? And I go, and I got Final Cut.
Oh,
And they went, yeah, you just did it. That's exactly what they did.
Oh, and yeah, so you're actually, just like your brother said, they're not going to know the real story. They're like, you can actually tell our story. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that just landed. I saw that land on you because you've been overseas as a Marine. It's different. If the person there says, I have Final Cut.
I'm the one who's going to tell it, yeah.
That that was a game changer.
There's trust.
It's even beyond trust.
Yeah.
It's also that, like, I can really tell you the truth. And if I like you, if I trust you, you're the guy who I'm putting my story in the hands of. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so we were able to go so much further, you know, in interviews and in missions. And so like that propelled us forward. You know, I interviewed 43 combat vets in a war zone while it was happening. And I mean, I was interviewing Marines while there was combat going on. The combat I'm in the first film, there was machine gun fire while I was interviewing the gunny. And he keeps going like it's the soundtrack for his movie. You know what I mean? He's just like...
You're like, excuse me.
I literally said that, Cristin. Yeah. I literally said, Gunny, should we go see what's going on?
Sir?
And he goes, maybe we should. And I like grabbed my camera.
But you just get so used to it.
I literally grabbed my camera, ran. Alyer's coming out. I go, I'm coming with you. He goes, you better hurry. I run and I grab my body armor and helmet, grabbed a couple tapes and a battery and like threw myself in the Humvee. Another Marine comes. He's like, here, sit up here. I sat where no Marine wanted on the ammo can, straddling his legs. And that's how I got out to the you know, that what became a huge combat scene in the film. Gunner was in a crossfire and called for support. So they rallied up a Panhard and a Humvee. We rolled out there. I filmed all of it. The reason why when that IED is going off, you can hear me going, is because I'm still mic'd from the interview.
Oh my goodness.
There's no time. I just threw the body armor over it and the helmet and boom, we went. And you know, that's the special thing of this new project is we go back to some of those moments, right? So in this film,
it's like a reflection or just diving in deeper, I guess.
That's actually what it is because I was there and, you know, filmed the ID going off. And that was a moment where like, you know, some people thought I froze. I'm like, I didn't freeze. I've been thinking about the shot that was worth my life and that was it. Because in that moment I was like, this is the climax of the film. I've got to get this. I'm locking my legs. Boom. I I pan back to the other side. I got the Iraqis. Everyone's getting off the road. Time for me to get off the road. I ran off the road, and as soon as I got off the road to cover, in the film you can see 3 bullets coming across the lens of the camera. And Ed Allier said the third one had your name on it. It literally went like across the lens of my camera, almost hitting me. You know, so like, and if you think deeper about that, I've had time to reflect on that. They caught those guys like a day later. They all had Syrian passports. So why were Syrians in the Sunni Triangle, north of the Euphrates, shooting at Iraqi soldiers patrolling their own streets? There were only 3 Americans. A gunner, staff sergeant, and then an army medic, and Jake. And why are they shooting at the cameraman?
Interesting.
You don't shoot, in the military, you shoot at the person most likely to kill you. Cameraman ain't gonna kill you. So if you think about why are they shooting at the cameraman, it was because I was a better win. You kill me, it's a good story, right? So there's that moment.
Did you know, like going into it, that would be the risk?
Well, not really, and kind of yes. So a lot of people would wear blue. I never did that. I was like, to heck with that. I'm not putting a target on my chest.
Okay.
So I wore camouflage.
You embedded.
Oh, I was totally embedded. So the way I got out to that road was because no one else in the media would cover it. They came to me and they said, there's this road in Iraq between Ramadi and Fallujah. More IEDs go off here than anywhere else in Iraq. It's the National Guard and the Marines. Nobody else wants it. What do you think? And I was like, send me. That's where I want to go. Send me there. And I could go on. I could fill your podcast just on those moments. But I'll fast forward to the moment when I am standing over 2 wounded Iraqi guys. One's got his leg messed up. Yep. And the medic's scrambling on that. And then the other one, the other one's got his jaw all over the place, right? And they're working on that. But the one who had a leg wound, which are more dangerous than people think because of the veins and the arteries there, Gunner Keniston was on one knee, and he's caressing the face of the guy. I remember
watching that.
To me, that was grace on earth. That was one of the most extraordinary things I ever saw in the worst place ever.
In the most horrific moment of that
possibly,
of his existence at
this
that point.
This guy, who's like an alpha warrior, like a gunner is the person who advises the battalion commander on tactics, weapons, all this stuff. Ed said to me once, throw a cape on that guy, he's Superman. So like, this is a warrior's warrior, and he's being unbelievably kind.
Yeah.
And so when I made this film, I wanted to revisit that moment, right? I thought that was the essence of Brothers After War, is to come back to a moment that I experienced myself and saw something truly extraordinary. So
many moments that are extraordinary.
Well, thank you for that. But this one in particular, I have to say, was special to me. So I asked David about that moment. And what does he do? He goes, oh yeah, there were bullets flying, la, 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 la. Like he blows it off. So I was like, David, I was there. And for me, that was grace on earth. And that's where the film starts, his response. He stops, he looks down, he starts to think about it, and then he gets really, really real. And he says, it's that intimate connection you have, with another man. Yep. And it hurts. He was mine. He's my soldier. And I think that's the essence of what I was trying to capture with this new film, was to get to the real piece of it. And I think I felt like that was my obligation, because I'd been there on the front lines with those guys. I've done these workshops for tens of thousands of our veterans to help them walk through their trauma. Like, if we're gonna take on this film, like, go further. Yeah. Go further. Like, similar to like the first film, I'd be like, I got final cut. So your story's in my hand. I'm gonna ask you real questions. It's
different. If you ask a service member and you're like, oh, I'm with, whatever news outlet, they're gonna give you a certain answer. But it's very interesting if you're like, no, I'm here and I'm just here to tell your story, and I'm in this with you. I'm wearing I am going out here with you and risking your own life, and I'm gonna ask you a personal question, or I'm gonna ask you things, and the difference that you were able to really shine a light on in the first film is just very powerful. Okay, but I'm gonna back up a second, okay? Brothers at War and Brothers After War spotlight your brothers, Joe and Isaac. How eager were they to participate in not only the first film, but then also the second film?
That's a great question. So the reality is this: Isaac got it. The first film.
He
totally got it.
Yep.
He wanted me to do it. He was frustrated with the media, like talking about. They were obsessed with the decision to go in there or not. Not that that's not an important question. Not that we shouldn't debate that. But once you have men and women hooking and jabbing in the sandbox,
Yep.
you have to also focus on that. You have to be like, what's actually happening? And we as a country, we as citizens owe it to them to have that conversation, to kind of stay abreast of it and be batting it around, debating, talking, but talking about what's really happening, not fixating on the past. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So he got that. So he was like, okay, there's a brother angle here. That's kind of interesting. Like in the backdrop, we could also talk about the war. You could bring people to the front lines and let them see it through the grunt's eyes, right? And through like a line officer's eyes, right?
Reality.
The reality. And he got that. So he was 100% on board. Joe was a 17-year-old that enlisted, turned 18 in Fallujah, had 120 missions as a sniper under his belt. As Vietnam vets were telling me later, like obviously 1,000-yard stare, like post-traumatic stress, all that stuff. So, yeah, so you see him in the first film, you're like, oh yeah. So Joe did it because his brother's making a film and he's trying to help him. So Joe is sort of like the unwilling passenger in the train. And I think that's very much evident in the film. But God love him, he went along. And you know, in the new film, I went back to our interviews. That poor punk, man. I was in his barracks room asking him about the war. I had him outside. I didn't even know what I was doing. He was schooling me left and right.
But it was a brother's love.
It was a brother's love.
Yeah.
And we revisit footage that no one's ever seen before in the new film. And because I just realized, like, oh my God, Joe and I have been talking about the war on terror for like 15 years. I was asking him these questions when he was 19. I have it all on camera. You know, so we use some of that to kind of reflect back on where he is now from where he was then, and where we were as brothers then to where we are brothers now. What is the same? What is the different? And also to show this conflict between us as brothers, but also perspectives, as passionate men trying to figure this out. This is a long-standing thing. This is a long-term relationship that has dynamics, and he's been moving and I've been moving and we've been in it. And I thought that was like a really cool aspect of the film was to like...
It's gold.
To let you in on that.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I knew from the very beginning, no one's gonna wanna watch whatever about how great the Rademacher family is. No one's gonna care. Like, we gotta cut to the bone.
Patriotic tunes.
Yeah, that's not for a documentary. Like, we got to cut to the bone and get to something real. And I think that's what people like, is we really get to it. So now here's the thing. That was the first film.
Okay.
The second film, it flips.
Isn't that interesting? I thought so when watching.
Did you? Because you've seen it.
Joe was just so...
This is Joe's film. The first film is Isaac's film. Joe's the unwilling passenger. The second film is Joe's film. Isaac's the unwilling passenger.
Yeah.
Because Joe, there's a moment that it all changed, where the light bulb goes on in Joe's eyes. And I love my brother, but sometimes until the light bulb goes off, it's just like, oh my God, Master Sergeant, stand down, Master Sergeant. Okay, Joe's. And you see this dynamic in the new film. It's still there, but I love him dearly, you know. But we are in Columbus, Georgia. Gary Sinise at this moment in time is my executive producer. Gary and I are flying across the country to go and introduce the film. We've decided, Gary's so lovely with me. He goes with my ideas sometimes. And I had this idea. I'm like, Gary, I don't want to open in New York and LA. I want to open in like Columbus, Georgia, and Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Jacksonville, North Carolina. I want the vets. I want the guys who are serving in the war to be the first ones to talk about the film. And he went for it. So
of course.
Opening night's Columbus, Georgia. We sell out like 2 or 3 screens. And Joe is like embarrassed because the first film is very intimate. It really exposes him. You know, his fiance at the time says sometimes he gets mad, he just screams. I won't even, you know, the first time he saw it, he was very emotional about me including that in the film. I think he felt he was going to get judged and looked down upon. And now all of his peers are watching the film on the big screen with their wives. And then he's up front with me, Gary Sinise, and Danielle. And he's embarrassed. Film ends. His peers give it a standing ovation.
What a moment.
They're looking at him, and there are tears in their eyes. And there's not judgment. There's acknowledgement and gratitude, because they're like, that's us. That's our story, bro. Thank you for telling it. And he got it. He was like, oh, now I get it. You know? And this film, he understood because of the workshops, because we've literally saved lives with the first film, because we've been, you know, he understands from a grunt's perspective, and he's a master sergeant, I don't really grunt anymore, but he understands from a senior non-commissioned officer, it's about the people underneath you. You take care of your soldiers or your Marines or your sailors, you know, or your airmen, guardians, coasties, okay? I don't want to leave anybody out.
Don't you dare. No.
Oh, I know it.
They'll
Trust
find
me.
you.
I know they will. But you take care of your people, and that's what Joe's role is at this point. So he understood intrinsically, in a way I didn't even know when I started the film, that this would help other people. And he actually loved the first film. So this was Joe's film. He even to this day understands how it can help.
Totally.
And he's so generous in the film. Isaac is the unwilling passenger in our train. And when I ask him to revisit the moment when his daughter doesn't recognize him and won't go to him, and he starts to talk about it, and he says it takes 6 months to be dad, and then he starts crying. And it's extraordinary. And Hunter, I want to tell you this, and anybody who's listening, like, I didn't ask Hunter to interview her. Hunter asked me to interview her. So I'm like, Hunter, you wanted me to interview you.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, perfect.
And she goes, I want people to know what it's like to have your dad go on 4 deployments. And it was game on after that. And that's what you see in the film.
That's a reason to watch the film right there. It's just that one moment where all of a sudden it just all, like, you can't help but cry. You know, you can't help but feel something. And especially for the families, like, it really becomes very clear there. But, okay, so I wanted to also tie back into Gary. So you explained how you met him, but how did he become involved in the first film?
So in 2007, I went to Baghdad, and I screened the film for General Petraeus' public affairs folks. And there was this really tough but just wonderful Marine Lieutenant Colonel. And she said, you need to get this to Gary Sinise. He supports the troops. He would love this film.
I love her.
Yeah. Well, I said, do you have a cell phone number? Because we're not all drinking at the same cantina back in LA, okay? She goes, no, but I can get the word to him. I'm like, okay, all right, great. So I fly back from Baghdad, and I'm in the lobby of William Morris, and there's a good friend of mine named Michael Broderick, and I told him what the Lieutenant Colonel had said, and he goes, I know Gary. I think he'd love your film. In fact, I'm gonna have lunch with him later this week. I'll bring it up. So the word got back to me, look, Gary's not sure if he has time to see your film, but he'd like to meet you. So I went, I met him, I had a lunch with him and a bunch of other people, and everybody's like really kind of thought it was cool what I was doing. And I get this phone call, and at another event I was invited to, and I had to run out of the room because it's like the Assistant Deputy Under Secretary of Defense calling me.
Oh, wow.
So I try to take those calls, so I leave the lunch, and then John Voight follows me out, and he's like, I want you to call me. This is my cell phone number. Will you call me? I'm like, John, David, I've got John Voight standing in front of me. Just give me a minute. John, I got to take this call. But look, I'm going to come back in. He's like, you're going to call me. You're going to call me? I'm like, John, I'm going to call you. I'm going to find you right now. I just have to take this call, And so I finished the call. I was like, I got John Voight's really, wow. I then go back in, and then we have lunch. He's like, how'd the screening go at the Pentagon? He's like, call me after the screening at the Pentagon. So I call him, and he goes, yeah, how'd it go? I was like, it went really, really well. And so one thing leads to another. He gets the screening room at CA. He sees the film. He goes, you, sir, are a filmmaker. And then the next thing I know, I get an email from Gary Sinise going, Jesus, John really likes your film. Then, all of a sudden I get a call from Gary's assistant 2 days before Thanksgiving. Hey, Gary'd love to see your film tomorrow. Are you available? Sure.
I am now.
I am now. Yeah, I was supposed to be on a plane fly home for Thanksgiving.
Oh, not anymore.
No. So I had to tell my mom, look, I will be there for Thanksgiving. Now my car is going to be rolling up the driveway. She put the turkey on the table, but I will be there. I've got something I got to go do. So Gary's shooting CSI New York. He gets a screening room, and it's Gary Sinise, myself, and Norman Powell, just the three of us. We watched Brothers at War, and then we finished the film, and it was a rough cut of the film, and it ends, and he just sits there for like 2 minutes in absolute silence, deep in thought. And he goes, Jake, it's a really important film. It's really important. And then, one thing led to another, and he started getting ideas, and he started sharing those ideas. He wanted to champion the film because he felt like it. And what he told me is he felt like it captured everything he was trying to tell the American people about our military members, but also our military families. So he also started kind of telling me what to do. So
the director in him came.
God, right? I mean, has it ever stopped? And so we decided to make it official, right? Of course, I always get the hard jobs. So I got to go into the Dragon's Lair at CBS and sit down with him in his trailer and say, hey, Gary, we'd really like you to be executive producer of the film. And he goes, Jake, I'd be honored to have my name on your film.
How did that feel?
Scary. And then extraordinary. So it was kind of scary, and then it was kind of extraordinary. And then, he said, look, I want you to listen to me. And it's sort of been our relationship ever since. He didn't say, I need you to do what I tell you to do. He said, I want you to listen to me. He's like, I'm not worried about that, you do. But it was kind of like, I'm going to be on board on this journey with you, and I'm going to tell you whatever I think, and I just really want you to hear it.
He's like a mentor.
A mentor. And also he then had these ideas, and we did a screening on the Fox lot, and then that's how we got on Showtime's radar, and I just kept fighting for the film, and then we opened March 13th because he was available that weekend. And he jumped on an airplane and flew with me out to Columbus, Georgia, and Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then that is sort of a really important moment, because when we were in Fayetteville, so you do the right things for the right reasons, right? And you don't really know what's going to happen next.
Totally.
So we're in Fayetteville, and I don't tell the story very much, but I will today.
Yay.
This woman raises her hand, and we call on her, right? It's Gary and I in the front, and I think Isaac's up there too. So it's Isaac, Jenny, myself, and Gary Sinise. And raise your hand. She goes, yeah, I'm here with my three girlfriends, and we all lost our husbands in Iraq. And I just want to thank you for making this film, And I found her after the film, and I was like, hey, did it help to be here? She goes, yes, it did. I got to see where he was. I got to see him with his friends and stuff like that. Not actually him, but she got to understand in a different way, where he was, and that, that he was around people that loved him, and that, you know what I mean? It brought it to life for her, this big gap, this big question mark, this black hole is now filled in with colors and visuals and moments. And so it really struck me. I didn't know that would be the case. And then another thing happened where people would come up to Gary and I and say, we just had our first conversation about his or her experience in Iraq. And I thought, oh, that's really valuable. And so that was a seed that was planted. And then when I came back from Iraq, that machine gun battle I was telling you about. A week later, I was in Beverly Hills. And I have all kinds of stories about that. But the bottom line is, when you're in combat and you come back to America with a snap of a fingers, it's difficult, right? And I'm a human being like anybody else. And, the experiences that are well documented that combat vets have when they come home. Two things helped me. Three, actually.
Okay.
Journaling. I'm a journaler. So I journal, and that's an ancient warrior technique since Marcus Aurelius.
Yep.
Julius Caesar used to journal. And now I push I'm saying that, and
it's a
I'm
big
foot
deal.
stomping that because this is what I've been doing for 14 years. For any veterans out there listening, journal about your experiences. So that's just me telling you that.
It's processing. Yeah.
Well, I did that. I was journaling, and then Isaac called me. And Isaac was he knew I'd been in combat, and a decent amount of it. He said, so how you doing? You know, and I was like,
big brother.
Well, I'm the big brother.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a big brother.
Yeah.
Listen, here's the deal. Isaac would say it's not the age, it's the mileage. I would just say I'm aging better. So, you know, he looks older than me, but no. Sorry, Isaac. I do have
We
gray
love you,
hair.
Isaac.
We love you, Isaac. Sorry. No, he was so helpful. And then, you know, all those experiences that happen, right? Like loud noises or whatever. I went to go see a movie about snipers with Spielberg, and it was like too much. And he goes, yeah, that was a bad idea. I was like, yeah, I realize it now. And then, you know, I watched my own combat footage, and I had nightmares that night. And another thing I had to do was talk to my editor and my producer about the war and my experiences. We had 4 months to cut the entire film, so I couldn't not talk about it. I had to talk about it. I was forced to communicate about my combat experiences. Good, exactly. But I learned firsthand, that's actually how you heal.
Exactly.
You have to talk about it. You have to put it together. There's power in storytelling, your own story, right? So I was processing my experiences in an amplified way. So the combination of that comment in Fayetteville, combined with my own experience, I created a journal with Norman Powell and his wife. Now, Norman had interviewed 19 Medal of Honor recipients for American Valor. I had interviewed 42 combat vets in Iraq, and we developed a certain style and way of asking the questions that got people to open up with cameras and lights on them.
Okay.
So we put all that knowledge into these workbooks. Coupled with, Ellen has a master's in mental health, art therapy. She's an artist. So the three of us combined it all and made this really cool journal. I think it was cool anyway. I took the journal to Gary Sinise. I show it to him. And he's like, this is really good, Jake. Let's get this out there. Now this part I didn't plan. This was his idea. He goes, so next thing I know, I'm on a 5-base military tour. I'm standing in front of 300 vets coming home from the war in Iraq. They're watching the film. They have the journals. Off to the side, Dr. Scott Williams. Who's the vice chair of this foundation?
Jim Ravella?
No.
Oh, you mean General Vince Brooks. Sorry.
So the person in charge, the general in charge of the Big Red One is Vincent Brooks.
Yeah.
He signs the division command sergeant major and his division psychiatrist who had been deployed with them to this.
Oh my goodness.
So the division psychiatrist, Dr. Scott Williams, and myself are outside while they're watching the film, going through the workbooks to figure out what questions we're going to ask. And Scott's like, oh, this is a great question. This is really well done. You did a good job on this. So I said, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. And then he goes, what part of the film do you most relate to? Your first question, let's start with that. It's open-ended, see where they go. And then we added 2 questions. What's the impact been on your family? What inappropriate questions you've been asked? Why do you not like it?
Right. Oh, so you're getting them to process things. Interesting.
In
You're
real
using
time.
your journaling history and creating an opportunity. They're experiencing the film, and now they're in a state of, you know, just community and camaraderie and safety, because the film is very vulnerable. So now I think that's interesting. I like that.
There's another thing too.
Okay.
So after a film, everyone's asking me questions. Okay, so I told you about West Point.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the first screening ever, GI Film Festival, standing ovation, the chief of staff, the
Has
Army
that been
there.
the normal responses for the film?
For the first film, yeah.
For the first film, how?
I mean, when I do it in workshops, not necessarily, because we kind of like bring the lights down, and I want to use all the juice that we've built up to get them to journal.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know what I mean?
It's about the journaling.
It's about the journaling. But the second screening, I got a call from West Point.
Yep.
I got to screen it for the Corps of Cadets.
Oh man.
They gave me a standing ovation. So think about that moment. The school I wanted to go to that I didn't get into, that I couldn't go to,
Full
that my
circle.
brother then went to,
Right.
now has asked me, and now they're giving me a standing ovation. So I was like, okay, we're good. That's all I ever needed.
You did it.
Thank you. I
You
bow.
told their story, yeah.
Now I don't need any more people to ask me about the film. I've got everything I need. That was all the affirmation I need. So then I became curious, and I was like, I'm going to play this film, and then I'm going to ask you the questions.
That's incredible.
You're not going to ask me the questions. I'm going to use my platform to turn it around and ask you the questions. And so, and if anybody doesn't understand this or know this, sometimes, you know, infantry guys like to not want to journal and stuff like that, okay?
Yeah.
So, but like we use our influence, and I mean we lean on them, the youngsters. Like we'll walk around, my guys will be like, do you need a pen? Just look right at an 82nd Airborne paratrooper. You know, he's just seen the film. So it's like, you're going to do, you know, we'll say, hey, you don't have to ever journal again, but I want you to try it right now.
Yeah.
And I've done that with Marines from 2-1. I've done that with 87. So, you know, that was what we got started on that day. That's still the workshop.
Wait, I have to tell you. So my husband now, he's a Marine. So he saw the first film, and afterwards you had the journals come out and you passed them all out, and he got one too. And I was questioning, is he going to write? Like, is he going to actually do this? Because he's also there with me as part of, like, it's work in a way, you know, and he's supporting. But no, he sat there and he started writing. He started writing about his experiences. And one of the things I remember he shared later was that he's like, it told a real story. Like, it shared what, you know, it shined a light on what it really feels like. And I just thought that was just one of those kind of shocking moments where I did not go into there thinking that was going to happen. And it really does get them to kind of take a moment.
I mean, that's why we're having a conversation. Because we discovered that this was happening in 2011. And we discovered we could be a resource in 2012 because Oklahoma National Guard called me and said, we've lost 14 killed in action. Oh. Can you help us? And I said, okay. So we then made a workbook for spouses. We expanded the workshop to 6 hours with lunch to address that.
Yeah.
The middle questions are always the tough ones.
Totally.
Impact on families, the middle question. The middle question in the afternoon is, have you lost a friend overseas? How did you navigate it? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have a memorial service that I filmed over there that somebody that died while on a mission I was on, and I filmed it. We play that to kind of, you know, get their hearts going, and then we journal about it. Now, the beauty of the workshop is twofold. First is exactly what your now husband said. You know, like, it's creating that moment for him where he's sitting there in his own experience, and he's been primed by the film.
Right.
It feels authentic. He's looking at somebody he has at least a degree of respect for, saying, I want you to try this. And other warriors have been doing this since the ancient Romans. Right. And they do. They give it a shot, and they go, oh, wow, I'm getting insights. And then from that moment, we then take another important step. And it's frankly one of the most scary things, but then exciting once you do it after a while, which is, okay, now we're going to have a conversation. Yep. And, you know, what do people write? And we never know where that's going to go. It's gone a lot of places over the years, but it's really powerful. And then, you know, I'm going to say one nice thing. I mean, you guys started sponsoring the workshops in 2019. And one of the things, again, about Gary, because he's a little, I'm going to say crazy. He's a little crazy.
Always do a little more. He will always find a way.
He always does a little more with Jake Rademacher.
He will always find a way.
Oh, let me tell you how he did a little more on this. So there we are. They sponsor 4 workshops. The first one's in the film. That's the first one you guys sponsored. There's 1,000 people. It would have been canceled without your all's help. You're there. He sends Mike to come check it out because he sent him all over the country.
Everywhere.
To look at different programs. That year they came back with 2 programs.
Wow.
Brothers at War Resiliency Workshops is one of those 2 programs. So the next morning you guys call me and you're like, Jake, we're going to phase 2. It's not 4, it's 8 workshops. Start training trainers.
Have fun, we'll see you.
Yeah, see you, bye. Yeah, exactly what they did.
But it was working. It's working.
Well, it is working. But the point I want to make for this show, because it's sort of like an insider's look at it, is the workshops evolved from that point, because then I had to bring on trainers. I had to see, could other people do what I'd been doing for 8 years? And the first person I reached out to was Dr. Grazier, Nate Dogg to his friends. And Nate's a guy who was in the infantry, National Guard when he was 18, signed up for OCS, so he didn't go to Afghanistan with his buddies. One of the guys he signed up with dies in Afghanistan. His friends come up, they're just a mess. They're doing all the things that you don't want to see soldiers do when they're in grief and they don't know what to do. And he goes, I want to help them. And they go, oh, that's called a chaplain. So he becomes a chaplain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he becomes a chaplain, and then on the first day on the job as a chaplain in the California National Guard, a guy tries to kill himself, and Nate talks him off the ledge, literally, like, give me the loaded gun. Just an insane, crazy story. And he says, nothing trained me for this. So then he enrolls at USC and gets a master's in social work. By the time I meet him, he's on his way to his doctorate in social work, and he's a licensed clinical social worker. He's still in the California National Guard. We just did a workshop for him in March on my birthday. You guys owe me for that. In Kuwait, while he was deployed. So this is my first trainer, right? So he's on board, Noel Apana, they both have doctorates of social work. They have 40 years of military experience behind them. Noel deployed 3 times, suffered from moral injury himself. And then Chase Millsap, who's a 3-time combat vet to Iraq as a Marine, and then a A-team leader with the Green Berets to Asia. That's our team. So why am I sharing this with you? It's a lot of detail, I apologize. The point is this. The technique we utilized went further. I would ask questions, I would affirm. They would say it's more like coaching, right? Where you open up and I kind of affirm. But then something started happening where you'd share something personal, right? And I'll go, and you try to hand me the mic back, and I go, whoa. And you saw me do this probably in Colorado Springs.
I did.
Yeah, so I go, wait. I got a follow-up question for you. And then you're like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Right?
There was a couple that were like, uh-oh.
Because I was like, and I ask you a question, now you step a little bit further. And then I like pulling you forward, right? And then, and the audience is sort of like, what is happening right now? And then oftentimes, it's amazing, like emotionality, just right into that moment. And then we'll say something like, I'm curious, how did you navigate that? 2 things happen. One, they either give a beautiful, one guy lost his wife. He said, well, I just went and prayed with the chaplain every week. Others will say, I went and signed up for counseling and I just kind of worked through it. And they give, whatever they say, it's beautiful because it's from within them. And now they're sharing that with everyone there.
And it's like a beacon for everybody else.
It's a beacon. It's a way in. I think you shared something in the seminar you were in that everyone else kind of related to, and I told you to. You're like trying to tell me. I'm like, why don't you share that? Like it's coming from it's your lesson. It's your gift to the group.
I remember.
What worked for you? Yeah. So I was like, you say it. I'll double tap it, but like you share it. It's your thing. And then we do that for that reason because it's more powerful for them to hear the lesson or the solution from within the group. Secondly, though, and you may have seen this, you may not have. I just never know. Sometimes people go, honestly, I don't know. In which case, now the old Jake, when I first started doing this, would just jump in and give you a lot of advice, right? That's just my,
No.
You have a problem. Here's the solution.
Let me tell you point A, B, C, and D.
Let me tell you what I think we should do here, right? And I know I'm guilty of that, right? But the new me, though, in working with the professionals who came alongside me, they used to say that 90% of the time I would say something in a workshop and they were like, wow, that was really good. And 10% of the time they go, ooh, I don't know if it's not exactly the best thing you could have said there. And so our process with the workshops, not really going inside baseball, we do an after action report, like after every workshop.
Oh, that's good.
We talk through everything. To learn. And we hold ourselves to a much higher standard. We affirm each other for like, doing a good job. If you took a tough one, we'll say that was awesome. You were in the pocket, like that was great. But if there was something that like maybe somebody said something, and this applies to me as well. They'll say you were good up to this point, but then you went over here, and I don't know what you were doing. Like what that was not necessary, or that's not as good as you could refine that, or we need to drill into that. We're very hard on ourselves in a good way.
But it's because it's going to help people.
It's going to help people, and my philosophy is if we're always trying to be better, if we're trying to do a better workshop tomorrow than we did yesterday, then we are holding ourselves accountable, and then we are always in the moment. We are always like doing our best for the people we are trying to serve. And we can refine and we can learn and we can grow, and then we can like combine all of our experience into one sort of platform that we push out together. And now it's to the point where you'll be finding yourself sharing something that some other trainer taught you.
Beautiful.
And one of those things is that, how did you navigate it? It was like asking the follow-up questions. That was really Nate that did that. And then I got, oh, what is he doing? This is crazy. And so like I started doing more of it. And leaning in.
And it's powerful.
It is super powerful. And another thing about the workshops is like we tend to be able to do them as a 2-person thing now. And I didn't get to do that before when I first started. You guys started sponsoring it. So now whenever possible, I try to have 2.
It's real good.
Well, it's helpful too, because what ends up happening is, I'm going to say it. the workshop you were at, I remember a moment, and this is how profound these moments are. Where I can literally talk to you. This was October 12th of last year, and I can remember that 16-year-old girl opening up about her dad, who's an Air Force vet, committing suicide.
And letting everybody,
Told the whole room. Now, imagine if you're me. Like I saw you. You were like,
I was like, oh, yeah.
Right?
I just had to breathe for a while.
You were taken aback. You were like, oh man. And you eventually addressed it but you had a lot of time to let it process. We're standing in front of 110 people while she's sharing that.
Yeah.
And what we've learned is like I looked over and Noel had it.
He did.
He was in the zone with her. He was listening to her, and he just was. It was beautiful the way he handled that moment, and then they started a conversation, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're going to be okay here." And she's actually teaching us.
Oh yeah,
she's teaching us.
100%. Yeah.
And I've seen the trainers do that. I saw Chase in Alaska. A Vietnam vet came 3 days in a row to all three of ours, and on the day 2, he opened up about his friend he lost. He'd been sitting on that. He never talked about it. That happened in 1971. He never talked about it. He opened up in our workshop. Chase had it. He's right there with him. The Iraq vet is helping the Vietnam vet walk through survivor's guilt.
Is it these parts though? Was that what inspired the second film?
Yes.
It's those those moments.
Yes.
Because that's what it feels like. It feels like you were diving in deeper. You saw something that was like this healing that came about, and then how could you share that in mass?
It's those moments, right? And so then if you think about it from my perspective, so I have these moments, right? And I'm helping these other guys walk through their trauma. I'm helping them make sense of their experiences. And our concept is to turn post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth.
100%.
And to start the process right then and there.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not
That's a big responsibility.
No, there's no PowerPoint.
Yeah.
You saw
it.
I made you feel. I saw
100%.
you. You're journaling. Your now husband's journaling. You're in your. I'm like, this is an active workshop. You're going to do it. You should continue the work. You get to take the journal home after this. You could go talk to counselors if you need to, and many do. But if you think about it from my perspective, okay, so now I'm helping all these other guys that I didn't know them before I got there that day, and I'm starting to think about my friends from Iraq. And so I came to Gary and I was like, hey, we got to talking. I'm like, I'd really like to follow up with them. And I don't know if it was his idea or it was my idea.
Yeah.
I think we both give each other credit and take credit at different moments in time. It was sort of like a collective brain, because at this point, Gary was like, we have a little video, and that was Gary's idea. He was like, Jake, generals are busy. We need like a 4-minute video to show them what the workshop is. So I was like, okay. And I interviewed those guys that were hard hit, the Oklahoma National Guard, for the video. And so we just got this idea to do a follow-up film. He actually, out of his own pocket, paid for the original production, the stuff that's in the film, the Isaac and Hunter stuff.
Okay.
That was a proof of concept.
So he was very influential in the second film.
Influential. He funded it. Yeah. I mean, he gave me the money. I funded the first one. That was out of Jake's pocket. My pockets are smaller than Gary's. Let's just put it that way. Like, I had to go beyond my pocket with the credit card on the first one. But the second one, Gary was like, I like this idea. Here's some money to get started, right? So I can pay a cameraman to come out and do a little interviewing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I cut something together, and he loved it. So he's like, let's do it. And so we tried to get a TV show before it. And it was like, we couldn't get anybody to buy off. CAA took us all over town, and everyone, Showtime was like, we really love this, but I couldn't get the money internally behind it. I was like, all right, fine. So we were going to do an Indiegogo campaign. And then in the process of going, it's funny now I think about it, I'm laughing. So we were going to do an Indiegogo campaign. Gary's down to do an Indiegogo campaign, and he says, go talk to the Gary Sinise Foundation about the Indiegogo campaign, because I don't want to conflict with all the other things we're doing at the foundation. Okay? So Norman and I are literally prepping at the courtyard outside the old Woodland Hills office.
I remember, yeah.
Okay, remember that?
Yeah.
So yeah, you were at the foundation at the time.
I was, yeah.
So you probably set up the meeting. So we're outside prepping, and the genesis of this prep is going to be, can we please borrow Gary for a week? We need 4 weeks to raise some money to make this thing, and can we just, we'll do it in February when you guys are a little slow. Can we please borrow him? We actually need him. And so that's what we're going to go do. And then we go into the meeting, And at the time, General Rand was the CEO of the foundation. So he's sitting at the head of the table. It's Norman, myself, everyone else, all your other executives around. And General Rand's like, Jake, I saw your film Brothers at War, 2008 at the Canadian Embassy. I turned to my wife and I said, that's what Iraq is like.
Oh, wow.
Brother, I've worn your disc out. I've shown it to so many people. How you doing? I was like,
what a moment.
Really good. And he's like, well, I started talking about the workshops. And he goes, man, this is amazing. Oh. And I talked about wanting to make a follow-up film. And he goes, we should sponsor those workshops, shouldn't we, guys? And everyone's like, yeah, we should, General. Could we sponsor the film? Should we sponsor the film? So Norman is in shock. Like Norman's 40 years my senior. He's a 4-time Emmy-nominated producer. He's a legend. He looks over here, but he's also been working with me for a long time. So he goes like this, he just like turns. He looks at me, I look at him and I go, I didn't say anything in my mind. I go, well, this is going to be a very different meeting than what we prepped for. Is this happening right now?
We thought we were going to
grovel.
I was like,
all right, General, yeah, we could do this at the Gary. Yeah, I think this is programmatic. Let's go. And so he's like, I want you to bring 2 proposals. Bring me a proposal for the workshops, bring a proposal for the film. I was like, all right. So we came back, we had a one-on-one with him. He loved the idea, and then he sent me in to go talk to Gary. And so the workshops, they were like, we're going to sponsor 4 workshops. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We know you, we love you. Let's just, because he said, if I gave you this much funding, what would you do? If I gave you this much, if I gave you this much. Like, frankly, the first few years, you guys were constantly like pushing me. You were like, how much can you do, Jake? And Jim Ravella told me later, he's like, I want you to build a program, right? So it was like 4, then it was 8. Oh, let's do a little bit more. Yeah, those of us who have to do it. Gary, I'm looking at his book. I'm looking at him right now, Gary. I'm looking at you. Always a little more. This is this guy doing more. So 8, and then the next, it's like
it happens.
It's 20, 25 workshops, right? And then it just keeps evolving.
Yep.
And so once we had this plan, and thankfully, they signed off on the vision in 2019, and then we got going. And
you went and revisited a lot of the people that you had in the first film.
We really embedded. We really tried to capture the essence of these guys. And I'm going to be honest with you, I felt like they deserved it. It's really easy to sit a guy down if you have a relationship with him, which I did, and you have trust, which I do, and get him to talk about his trauma. But it's a little not fair to them or to our service members or our veterans to say this is what a vet is. And that kind of pisses me off, quite honestly. And this film's very different. I didn't go out and pick a bunch of sad stories and just pound you into the chest and sort of misappropriate their stories here. These are my friends, and I didn't want to I wanted to capture a holistic expression of them, right? So yeah, Jason Grundy jumped out of an airplane in the 75th Ranger Battalion as a response to 9/11 into Afghanistan. And yes, this extraordinary moment when he's talking about the lost friends and he starts crying right in front of me, the first guy I'm doing, right? But I want that moment in the film. We need that moment. You need to know that he's still feeling the loss of his brothers all these years later. You need to know that he's upset that he got medically retired and he was lost. That's part of it. But also that he met a lovely woman and his life changed and transformed, and also that he's actually a badass at his job.
Yep.
So I'm going to take you shooting. You're going to see this guy walk towards a target and hit every single time he pulls the trigger, that mannequin is moving. And he gives me a lesson on how to do a handgun, because that's what he does with some of our special operators now. Or Derek's going to take me out the side of an airplane because he's a professional skydiver now. He looks like a Viking.
Yes, he does.
He does. He looks like a Viking. Derek is crazy. But I'm just saying, can you imagine the film without that?
No.
It's not fair. And I think that's what vets really like about this, is they go yeah, man, I am living this awesome life and I'm still trying to make sense of what happened overseas.
They're integrating it.
Yeah, or they're trying. And everyone's at a different place.
Exactly.
Do you know? If you look at
100%.
Ben's in a different spot than say...
And Joe.
Well, Joe or Chris McKay or let's say Big Earn. Big Earn is very much in it. Big Earn is 1 year out of 20 years of service, and he talks about that loss of identity, that change.
Yeah.
He's actually ahead of Isaac and Joe, because at the end of the film, Joe is looking at the end and sort of looking forward to the next phase of his life after 20 years and 9 deployments. Isaac doesn't want to go, and he's just gotten the news he he ain't going
He's not
up.
going. Yeah.
He's not going to become a colonel. It's as he says, it's the end of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's one of the things that's extraordinary about the film is I'm sitting in a coliseum, the third largest coliseum ever built. Somehow I was able to rent the thing out for the morning for not much. And I'm sitting there in a coliseum. I'm interviewing my brother in this ancient place where warriors have fought for thousands of years ago. And I'm asking him about being a warrior and asking him to reflect on more than 20 years of service to our country. And it's coming to an end, and how do you feel about it? In a place where gladiators used to fight.
Incredible.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So like for me, that was like...
You can't even make it up.
You can't make it up.
No.
And going back to Gary, what was super cool about this film was he was there from the beginning. So he's part of the concept. He's challenging my thought process to make sure that, you know, what I'm trying to do makes sense. I have to kind of sell him on it. I have to like convince him that I've got the right idea, and he does. He signs off on it. He gets it. It was a gift. It was a gift to work with Gary. And I just, it's important to know, like, this eventually became a conversation between Gary and I. Like, he would give me notes. I would work on them. He never told me, like, how to do it. Sometimes he would. He'd give an idea. But a lot of times he'd say stuff like, Jake, does the film make its point? And then make it again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
And so I would have to go in and be like, oh, he's
look
right.
at
We've
it.
kind of already told that story. Let's not retell it. Let's let each veteran tell it. So I had this concept, like, it's the story of the veteran as told through 12 veterans.
Okay, so is that the takeaway then?
That's the concept.
That's the concept.
You know, the director's idea. That it's like you go on a journey in this film through an insider's look, through me.
Right.
We talked about where I'm coming from before this film starts.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to your original question, it's you have a director who's wants to do a deep dive into the veteran experience and has an incredible starting point for that, but wants to go deeper through his own friends, through his own family, embedding in their life today. They then sat down and were like, here's what's happening internally in my heart. And I think that's the beauty of the film.
That's it right there. Thank you so much for coming here, Jake, and for sharing about not only Brothers at War, but also Brothers After War. And it's just truly inspiring and really incredible in the work that you're doing too with the workshops and through the Gary Sinise Foundation and just impacting lives and getting people to talk and to connect and to just share their own stories and their struggles and watching that help the community as a whole. It's incredible work. So.
Oh, can I say something about Mac?
Oh, yes.
May I say something? So I just want to say something about Mac. So I knew Mac. I saw Mac as a drummer, but Mac actually worked on this film.
Yes.
So, as you know, you guys have kind of like your annual planning meeting. It's kind of like, let's bring Jake in and talk to the team about what we're going to do next year. So we had one of those meetings, and Mac is in the meeting. And we're talking about the film, and Mac goes, you know, it'd be kind of cool to do like a series where different issues that vets face, each veteran kind of takes that on.
Oh.
And we didn't do an internet series, but that's actually what we did in the movie. Like his thought never left me. And I remember sitting there and I was going, that was pretty astute and slightly brilliant, man. Like for a kid, like he's in late 20s or something like that. I was just like, dang. And I'm telling you about a moment in a meeting from like,
the apple doth not fall far from the tree.
No, that was 6 years ago, and I still remember the comment. And then the other thing I want to tell you, so, and I did this without Gary asking or anything like this. I just did this as my own like gift to the foundation. I decided after the distributor's logo to put the Gary Sinise Foundation logo. Now, you guys don't make films, so you don't have like a logo with music that's animated.
Right.
So I animated it. We fade in, we fade out. We needed music for it. So guess whose music is under the logo?
Oh.
Mac Sinise's.
Perfect.
So the second sound you hear in Brothers After War is Mac Sinise under the Gary Sinise logo.
Yeah.
And I sent it to Gary, and he loved it. And it was like our little homage
He lives
to
on.
Mac.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that. It means a lot
you.
to be in the Mac studio, and
It means a lot.
he was a great guy, and he was very,
best.
very thoughtful. And I just feel like since we're in his home right now, and his idea to just let people know that he was a part of this project too.
He is, yeah. still part of it. I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I love Mac's stories. They're my favorite, especially in this space, and I always feel like he's here.
Yeah, he is.
With us. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And as we do with every episode, Mac will close out the show.
You've been listening to GSF Podcast, the official podcast of the Gary Sinise Foundation. If you'd like to find out more about what the foundation is up to, or if you'd like to make a donation, please visit GarySiniseFoundation.org. Make sure to tune in next time for more interviews, and thanks for joining us.